I request respected Radhakrishnan sir and Arzuma to felicitate our guest Shri Dhiraj Singh sir.
It's really a great pleasure to be here and see all the wonderful work that is being done here. The first time that I heard of School of Government was when Rahul ji had come to the studio to talk about the student parliament, which itself was a very unique idea at that time. When I heard about it, it seemed like something which I had certainly never heard about, because we had student mock parliaments and other sessions being organized, but something like this at this scale, the scale really impressed me. So in the course of our conversation, I decided to come here and see and visit the School of Government and see what work has been going on. And I'm very pleased to say that it's a pleasure to be here and to be able to share with you my views about what I'm doing at Lok Sabha television channel. Its mandate is to bring the parliament closer to the people, and that includes almost everything, because what the people want and what their needs are being debated in Parliament by their representatives. And that includes almost everything. As far as I think, in my limited knowledge of parliamentary proceedings, I think everything comes under the ambit of the Parliament's channel, because everything that affects the common man, be it health, be it transport, be it public distribution system, everything comes under the ambit. So a strategy was evolved to sort of get experts on board and get people who are very closely related to these different specialities, and get them to come on board and speak. Because what happens is, in a normal TV scenario, the space for debate and discussion is very limited, because you have a lot of constraints. I have worked in the private media myself, and the constraints would mean that you have you sell your space for ads, you sell your space for a lot of other things. So the actual programming time really has shrunk. And that, in a way, has become a great disadvantage for a medium that was initially meant to inform and enlighten people. Eventually, it has, in a way, become compromised because of the demands of the market, or because of the demands of so many other corporate interests. So that space is very limited. Now, when people or experts or scholars or academics, when they come to Lok Sabha TV for a debate, they are often very appreciative of the space and time they get on Lok Sabha TV, because, for example, you have an expertise in public policy. If you go to a normal channel, you will just get like 5 or not even that, a few seconds to say your thing. And then again, the anchor takes over. The anchor is the largest star of the show. He takes over and he sort of decides which way the conversation is going to go. But what happens on Lok Sabha TV is that people are given space to talk about their experience at the grassroots and how these experiences will help formulate policy in a larger sense. The charter of the channel is not answerable to the government. Being a parliament channel, we are answerable to the parliament, which is headed by the speaker. So many a times where private channels or the state-controlled channel fights shy of asking difficult questions from the government, Lok Sabha channel asks very bold questions. Why is this not happening? If a minister comes, or if any functionary of the government comes, we can stand up and ask them, why is this not happening? And that is greatly appreciated, because the space for this kind of questioning has also shrunk, especially in the mainstream press. Many a times it is also noticed that the proprietor of the channel has his or her own interests, and that is why a lot of things are not asked, a lot of questions are not raised. Of course, there's a downside to it also, because a lot of times people say, there is often an accusation that because it's become televised, the parliamentary debate has become televised, a lot of unnecessary issues are thrown up because people want to play to the galleries. They want to appeal to the masses, saying that, oh, we made such a big issue about mehengai, or we made such a big issue about this. So there is a downside, which I'm not so sure is true, because out of, say, 60 days of a session or 30 days of a session, not always everything is sort of diluted by this chest thumping about issues. A lot of criticism about televising parliament proceedings is that actual work, I'm sure you're all familiar with the committee system. The parliament works on a lot of committees. So right now the committees have no televised proceedings. The committees are totally in camera, they're shut and they're not open to being televised. So they say that a lot of work actually happens in the committees, which are not open to camera. And since parliament is televised, a lot of people want to just be seen as making a lot of noise and doing a lot of work. And that becomes a sort of impediment. But I don't think that's always true. A lot of times, even before the parliamentary proceedings were not being televised, there was a lot of ruckus in parliament, mics were being thrown and scuffles breaking out, and this is before it being televised live. So I think that way very little has changed. But as far as democracy goes, I think this is the best thing that could happen to democracy, where the public gets to see its people in actual performance, actually delivering results. Because if we go back to the definition, the definition of parliament comes from pal, or to talk, debate. Debate is the very important foundation of the parliamentary system, where every issue that affects a lot of people has to be brought out into the public domain and discussed. And discussion becomes a very important part. And to exclude the larger public from that discussion and debate is not a very good thing. Like I was talking to an MP, I won't name him, his father was a chief minister, and so I asked him, what is the difference between your father, his father was chief minister, say about 2 decades ago, 20 years ago. So I said, what is the difference between your father's time and your time? So he said, when my father was chief minister, we used to go, I used to handle his campaign, and when we used to go to, for campaign, we used to ask his constituents ki kaisa inhone perform kiya, and their faces used to be inscrutable, no emotions on their face. So it was very difficult for the politician to know which way the election would swing. He would be in a huge suspense till the actual results came out, because the people didn't say anything. वो नेताजी आए, नेताजी ने बोला और वो चले गए, and he would have no emotions, he would not respond to anything the Netaji says. But now the difference is, when he goes, people say, and people have a lot of questions, they know what's happening in Egypt, they know what's happening in Australia, any part of the world, and they really question their representatives, saying that वो debate में तो आपने कुछ बोला नहीं, आप तो चुप बैठे थे. तो so it becomes very important for. So that is the big difference from his father's time and his time. I don't know where we'll go from here. Maybe there will come a time when you can ask your questions on SMS to while the proceeding is being shown live, so they'll take your questions on SMS or whatever. And I much look forward to that time whenever it happens. Basic चीज जो आपको requirement है वो curiosity है. You have to be led by curiosity. कि what is happening, कहाँ क्या हो रहा है, क्या होना चाहिए, उसके बीच में जो अंतर है वहीं आपको स्टोरी मिलेगी ना. तो बेसिक चीज जो है वो तो आपकी क्यूरियोसिटी है. यू हैव टू बी लेड बाय क्यूरियोसिटी. बाकी सारी जो चीजें हैं वो सीखी जा सकती हैं, आइदर ऑन द जॉब और थ्रू व्हाटएवर. मीडिया कोर्स एसेंशियली जो भी मीडिया कोर्स रन करते हैं वो आपकी क्यूरियोसिटी डेवलप और शेप अप करने के लिए होता है. बाकी टेक्नोलॉजी कैन ऑलवेज बी लर्न. तो अगर आप में वो टेक्नोलॉजी है, आई मीन क्यूरियोसिटी है, तो यू कैन ऑलवेज गो इन फॉर अ मीडिया दिस थिंग. और one element which a lot of media courses will not tell you, that media or the medium of film or documentary thrives on surprise. You have to surprise. You have to give a sort of twist. You have to reinterpret. If you show a thing as it is, it will not be as effective. But you have to give a story to it. You have to give a story, and then it becomes much more effective. For example, I'll give you a small example. हमने corruption के बारे में बहुत सुना है, ये होता है, वो होता है. But when you actually see a film like People Live, तब वो corruption का हर angle, the ridiculous to the sublime, everything is covered in them. तो बेसिक जो चीज़ है मीडिया के मेरे अनुसार क्वालिफिकेशन वो तो क्यूरियोसिटी है. यू हैव टू बी लेड बाय योर क्यूरियोसिटी. आवर ओनली वे ऑफ गेटिंग अ फीडबैक इज द टैम रिपोर्ट एक्चुअली, द TRP ratings. Otherwise there is, since we are not a profit oriented channel where it's a public service broadcast, so a lot of these reports are also, they don't mean much, as much they would mean in a private channel, because it's all about eyeballs and advertising and stuff. But our reach is certainly there. But again, there is also a question sometimes about the whole methodology of collecting these TRP ratings. That is also sometimes questionable. But anyway, let's not get into that. But our only method of feedback is receiving the callers for our live call-in programs. That is a good sort of, that gives us a good idea where all people are watching our programs. If someone calls from Eastern UP or some small village in Rajasthan, then we know that people are watching, and how pertinent those programs are for them. Like a lot of time, I have to face this criticism. Lok Sabha TV is very boring. So, I mean, I tell them that if you want to watch reality TV or dance shows, then that is the wrong place to switch to. But the attempt is to make the area of our jurisdiction or the area of web in which we operate interesting, but not to sort of lessen the seriousness of the whole channel. Like some time back, there was a proposal to have a Antakshari of MPs, but so. And you'd be surprised, they did come and shoot for it also, but it was only telecast once because we thought it would dilute the seriousness of the channel. But it was like a year-end Antakshari. जो हमारा सेटअप है उसमें लोकसभा के अंदर, वो हमारे रोबोटिक कैमरास हैं, और जब किसी पर्टिकुलर कंस्टिट्यूएंसी या पर्टिकुलर मिनिस्ट्री का मेंशन आता है, तभी वो उनका क्लोजअप लेते हैं. तो अगर फॉर एग्जांपल किसी कंस्टिट्यूएंसी की बात हो रही है और वो कैमरा उनके ऊपर जूम हुआ और वो सो रहे हैं, तो फिर तो ये इंटेंट ये नहीं था कि वो उनको सोते हुए दिखाएं. इंटेंट ये था कि क्योंकि उनकी बात हो रही है इसलिए उनको फोकस किया जाए. तो अगर और आई थिंक ये एज एन MP, एज अ पब्लिक पर्सन, आपकी लाइफ बहुत ज़्यादा हेक्टिक होती है. तो अगर वो थोड़ा सो भी लेंगे तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा बहुत बैडली. बिफोर आई टुक ओवर हियर, जब मैं बाहर से देखता था तो जो एक ऑब्जर्वेशन मेरा था वो ये था कि डिस्कशन का जो कंटेंट है, दैट इज़ वेरी गुड, बिकॉज we get the best of experts in their field, and when they talk, they really enlighten you on the subject. But our sets are a bit old. Our programming sort of, what would I say? Programming ethos is a bit old, because when the channel started, उसके सामने emulate करने के लिए कुछ था नहीं example, because it was the first channel in the country, maybe in the world, I don't know. There weren't many channels being run or doing this kind of broadcasting. So there was no example to follow. The only example that was in front of us was Doordarshan. So a lot of Doordarshan-like Doordarshan-like things have been replicated here, which we're trying to overcome gradually. I'm trying to work on the sets. We're trying to redesign the sets, and that will help, I think, once the sets are better. Otherwise, as far as content goes, I think content is pretty strong, so I don't want to change that or dilute that. Our basic cue for our cameras is the speaker's chair. Whenever the speaker says that it's adjourned, that means we switch transmission off. But if the speaker is sitting there and she or whoever is sitting in a chair is not adjourned, that means we show whatever is going on. So whenever there's an unruly scene in Parliament, when the speaker has not adjourned it, that everything is shown. But we don't replay it to the people who've sort of made that unruly scene. How would it help? Tell me.
Well, just to realize that what they were doing and how they were looking.
To shame them.
Yeah.
Well, that's an idea. We can work on that.
Maintain the decorum of the house also.
Yeah. No, see, sitting outside, it seems a lot of, it seems like they're being irresponsible or indisciplined. But we all must understand that in Parliament or as an MP, your stakes are very high. And when you are operating in that realm, it is sort of expected that people lose their cool sometimes. I mean, if it happens all the time, then it's really uncalled for. But sometimes I think it's all right. Because even if you look at your own university elections or something of that sort, where the stakes are not so high, but tempers do flare up in such situations. So also in the Parliament. But by and large, I think our parliamentary behavior in Parliament is pretty good. I mean, outside when you see them in Central Hall is like this college canteen, which everyone is fine. There's no this thing. But the stakes are high in the sense that they want to be seen representing their constituency or their party interest or their party line. So they sort of raise these issues and raise them in a way which seems unruly and indisciplined to us. But I think as long as you're not throwing mics at each other, it's fine to shout, because sometimes shouting is the only way that you get heard, and or walking out is the only way you get heard. About the studios, we were also one of the first channels in the country to have a totally high definition studio. So that was quite an investment at the beginning, because it was thought that if you're showing parliamentary proceedings, it has to be live, high definition, and the maintenance is also really very high, because nothing can go wrong while the session is on. So that is, and plus security is a big issue in Parliament. One of the things that we really sometimes regret is that our studio is located in the Parliament Library, which is part of the Parliament this thing. So anyone who comes is subjected to all that security drills. So once there was a very renowned singer who came and to record something, and his Tanpura was sniffed by a dog, so he was very upset about that. So these things happen because